Oh my gosh. Hi. Sratham Patak, happy Friday. I am Sarah of Expat in Croatia, and this is 5-Question Friday. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm a little, because in case you saw it, I put up a story a few minutes ago because I thought I was going to be like horrendously late because my ferry was late by 45 minutes but somehow it all just happened really quickly, and then I got up here and got all set up and in a wonderful little salon thing here with nobody, and I was like, how is that possible? And then the moment I was about to hit play, someone came in and started having a phone call. So I had to go to the opposite end of the salon so it wouldn't be quite so loud. So, hey, I'm here. I'm on a ferry, a car ferry that just left Mali Loshin, going down the channel with Loshin kind of on both sides of me and heading towards, I think our first stop is Premuda, maybe, something like that. We stop at about, I think, 5 islands before we get to Zadar. It's a 7-hour ferry, which is a really long ferry to get on and start your journey at 5 o'clock in the evening on a Friday. But yeah, that's where we're at. Oh, hey, Bella Luca. Hey. Bella Luca's nice. Corchilla's nice. So I'm just going to take a minute for me to calm down. I've just been sitting in the car for 2 hours waiting for the ferry. Okay, I'm here. So what's going on? I've been on the island of Loshin this past week doing a Croatian language immersion course at the Croatian Language School. This is the second time that I have done this immersion course, and I really loved doing it last September. I love doing it this year. It was a very different experience this year than it was last year, and it's something that's been on my mind the last couple of days. And I think I might make a video and kind of dive into it a little bit deeper, but I love my 5-Question Friday people, and I always give you guys a glimpse of what's going on rather than everybody else, and sometimes you get a preview, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview. When I came the first time, I didn't know what to expect from that situation, and that was last September, so that was 8 months ago? 8 months ago. And a lot has changed over the course of the last 8 months. So, for one, I have let go of my shame for not being farther along in my Croatian language skills. I was very like a little scared little bird when I got here because I didn't know what to expect, like I said, but I was carrying all this pressure on my back to make sure that I proved to myself, to you, to my teacher, that I could do this, that I could spend this week just speaking Croatian and be okay. And I gave myself all these assignments that nobody asked me to do, and I'm glad I did it. I don't have any regrets about how that all worked out. But it was very intense. It was really super intense for me. And I had a lot of growth. I didn't know that I spoke as much Croatian as I actually do until I went through that process. But now coming here the second time, I don't have that shame. I'm not saying I still didn't give myself a couple of assignments, but I wasn't like suffering trying to prove myself, like bend over backwards. And because of that, I was a lot more at ease, and that made the learning process a lot more enjoyable, and I was a lot more open to it, and I felt like speaking Croatian was a lot more reflexive, and that I think is the biggest challenge. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I would venture to guess that Croatian being a reflex is probably the biggest challenge that we all have, because there's so much math involved. There's so many calculations that we have to think about to get like a word out, to get a sentence out. Case, plurality, tense, the direction of the action. That's just a few of the things that we have to calculate. So this time I was able to really have some conversations with my teacher, and that was last night. We had dinner in Veli Lošinj, and the whole time we spoke on Croatian, and it wasn't a struggle. It felt very natural, and I'm really glad about that. So I wanted to share that with you. What else? So the last time that I spoke to you, last Friday, I was on the island of Susak. So I had a couple more days on Susak that I just want to kind of wrap up that experience for you. So after I left you, that night we stood on my friend's roof and we looked at the stars, and you can see the Milky Way from there. Like, it's not known as I think it's called a dark field where you can see stars because there's not a lot of light pollution. This isn't an official one, but it is quite remote, so you can see a lot of stars there, and that was pretty neat. And then on my last day, we kayaked to a secluded beach. I can't remember the name of it now, but we were really kind of disturbed because we rolled up on the beach with a kayak, and the beach was covered in trash. I mean, covered in trash. Clearly no one had been there to clean up in a very, very long time. And it was obvious that all this trash was not just left there by beachgoers, that it was thrown off boats and washed up on shore. We spent about an hour and a half cleaning up all of that stuff, and we could only take back a small portion of it on the kayak, but my friend Marina is going to have one of her friends with a boat come and pick it all up. Why am I telling you this? I filmed kind of like a litter PSA, so that's going to come out on the channel at some point so you can kind of see what we're dealing with. But it's up to all of us to keep Croatia's beaches and seas clean, so that's important. Yesterday was a really big day because Linda, my teacher, and I, we made, like at least a dozen videos in Croatian where we were having conversations in Croatian. So I don't know when those are going to come out, but stay tuned for that. There is one or two videos that we did about the upcoming European Championships for football. So that'll come out in June. And then we also did one about the Olympics. So that's going to be pretty fun. Ooh, there's Marina, Baldarka Bay. Thank you so much, Marina, for popping on and telling me the name of that beach at the most opportune moment possible. What else? The last thing I want to say about the immersion course for right now. So, like I said, I give myself assignments because I'm a crazy person. And when I was here the last time, one of those assignments I gave myself was I wanted to tell a story here on Instagram in Croatian. So there's a series that I do from time to time called Today in Croatia, where I tell a little story. And I did a version called Danas u Hrvatskoj. So I wrote a story in English. My teacher helped me translate it. I memorized it, and then I told all of you, and I'm really proud of that. So I did another one. So I haven't recorded it yet because this one is more complex, and it's going to take a lot more practice, but it's written, and I've been going over it every day. So I'm probably going to film that when I'm back in Split. It's about Island Susak. And I'm eager to tell you that story. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit about the island, give you some fun facts, and talk about what I did. So keep a lookout for that. The last thing I want to tell you before we get into the questions is I was invited by the Tourist Board of Split to participate in a project that will help shape the how they approach tourism, how they portray the city of Split to tourists. So I don't know when that interview is going to happen to support that project, but the invitation came in this past week, and I very excitedly agreed to be a part of it. So I'm glad. I'm really, really glad to be a part of that. I've lived in I've lived in Split for 12 years, and I love Split very, very dearly. So anything I can do to help the city of Split, I'm down for. Okay. Shall we get into the questions now? Also, I'd love to do a sound check. I mean, I've got the mic on and everything, but I am on a ferry. So if you're having any trouble hearing me, I would love to know that. All right, so this first question, actually, this is a question that came in from two people with slight variations. And when we got the first one, I didn't really think that I should answer it. But then when the second one came in, I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and tackle this, okay? So these questions came in from Stephanie and Mary. Stephanie is from South Africa. Mary is from the U.S. And they both wanted to know, how can they vote in their home country's elections from Croatia. So the reason I did not want to answer this or add it to the queue was because I answer questions about Croatia, and I don't want to be responsible for finding out the rules for other countries. Croatia is enough of a handful, and that's where we have our focus. That being said, once we got a second question, I was like, okay, there is a way that we can kind of go about this where I think it would be of value to the people who live in Croatia who have multiple nationalities and would like to vote in their home countries or other countries where they have citizenship, okay? So if you are living outside the country of your citizenship and you want to vote in that country where you're from, you should definitely speak to that country to find out what their rules are, because the rules are going to vary from country to country. They're not going to be the same. Now, that being said, in most countries, you can vote in your elections at your consulate or embassy that is closest to the country that you're living in. So not all countries have an embassy or consulate within Croatia. Some of them are in Vienna, some of them are in Budapest, some of them you actually have to go to Germany. So you just need to find out where your closest consulate is, contact them, see how you can vote in your elections, okay? Now, for South Africa in particular, since one of the people we're talking about is from South Africa, you actually have to register with your consulate to be able to vote at a consulate. Now, the other person, Mary, she's from the U.S., and that is not a typical situation. The United States is possibly the only country where you cannot vote at your consulate. I'm not going to say that definitively because I don't know. I'm pulling that out of my butt. But the United States is a very special situation in most ways, because in the U.S., our elections are not run by the federal government. They are run by the individual states, which means every state has different rules. And because of that, we cannot vote at our embassy in Zagreb. It is a giant pain in the butt. So if you are a U.S. citizen, then you have to be registered to vote, and you have to find out what the voting rules are for your state, or at least the last state that you lived in. To give you a very quick example, because I do not want to draw this out, I am from Texas. That is the state that I vote in when I vote. And Texas, you have to mail it in. There's no other way to do it. California, you can fax it in, which is way easier than mailing it in. So yeah, just check with your country and see what the rules are. I'm going to move myself around so I'm not in shadow, because now we are going out to sea and it is much brighter. Ooh, I think that looks better. I don't know. I can't tell. All right. Sometimes you just got to roll with it. You know what I mean, guys? All right. So the next question comes from Deemy on the 5 Question Friday forum. I am an EU citizen, and I was fingerprinted as part of the temporary residence card application. I was under the impression that EU citizens do not get fingerprinted. I was taken aback but gave fingerprints anyways. Was that correct? Yes. Yes, absolutely, it is correct. So to clarify, fingerprints are not taken as part of a temporary residence application. It doesn't matter where you are from. They are only taken as part of the issuance of the physical residence card that everybody gets, including EU and EEA citizens. They take fingerprints of your left and right index fingers only. So fingerprints for EU, EEA citizens who currently have or previously had temporary or permanent residence are kept on the information system of the ministry permanently, indefinitely. This is defined in the rule book regulating the stays of EU, EEA citizens. We do have a source for this. If you would like that, send us a DM. Now, he's an EU citizen. He's asking about this for EU citizens, but it goes for third country nationals as well. If you were living in the country, they want your stuff. But it's only these 2 fingers, okay? This is not related to background checks, just so you know, because I feel like there is very often confusion about that. MOP is not asking for all of your fingerprints. Some countries require fingerprints to get a background check that you then need to submit to MOP, like the US, for example. Okay. Next question comes from Christian here on Instagram. I have a question regarding the selling of properties in Croatia. I have inherited land and would like to sell it. Do I have to pay tax on the selling, or is the selling price my net after paying the real estate broker? Okay, so there's no tax on selling land or property in general, but if you sell it in less than 2 years since you inherited it or bought it, you have to pay VAT on it. VAT is 25% tax, so that is one tax. Also, just because I don't want to give incomplete and therefore misleading representation, whenever you purchase property, you have to pay a 3% transfer tax just to get it into your name. Okay, but he's talking about selling property. So when selling property, if it's less than 2 years, you have to add 25% VAT tax on it. If it's more than 2 years, no tax at all to the seller. All right, so we do have sources from the tax office and the law on that. If you would like that, send us a DM. We also have a bunch of guides on buying property depending on your nationality. We also have a guide on all the taxes you might pay in Croatia. So if you'd like any of that stuff, shoot us a DM. Cam will get it over to you. This brings us to our lawyer tip of the week. Da, 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 da. I still have not gotten a hold of a musical instrument. I will work on that. Okay, so when dealing with any government office in Croatia, be as informed as possible. There is no excuse for not having the right documents for citizenship, residence, or healthcare at this point. If you do not know what you need, then you increase the chances of delays in your application, you increase the likelihood that the government worker that you're dealing with will get annoyed with you, and that they will take advantage of your ignorance. On the other hand, some government workers will try to take advantage of you simply because they cannot be bothered or because you're a foreigner. So if you know exactly what you're doing, if you have all the documents in the right format, if you have the law handy with you, then you can properly stand up for yourself. Now, I would like to add something from myself to this lawyer tip. You can find everything that you could possibly need related to immigration, healthcare, or property procedure on expatinCroatia.com. Now, when you're in a government office, if they tell you that, like, ne može, it cannot be done, this is not how it goes, you cannot do this, and you know that you can, don't say, well, Expat in Croatia says, because we are not a government institution. They do not recognize us. They don't recognize our authority. We don't have any authority. I mean, we have authority in the sense that we have been writing about Croatia's laws, its policies, its bureaucracy, its immigration procedures for 11 years. So we know what we're talking about. And the way that we know we can prove that what we're talking about is because in our posts, we cite the law in Croatian, we translate it into English. At the bottom of every post, we have a section called Sources where we put links to all of this stuff. So if you do get into a disagreement with a case officer, first of all, be very kind, be very respectful. Say, can you help me understand this? But show them the law. Don't say Expat in Croatia says. Show them the law that you can find on our website, the appropriate rules, so that you can reference it. Say, can you help me understand what this means then if you're saying that this is not possible, but it says this in the law? Just be real understanding. Be a bit dumb, but be very informed. Okay? So that is why you should make sure that you arm yourself with information, as much information as possible, before every single trip to a government office. Okay? And if you're not sure and you don't feel prepared, that's what we're here for. You can always ask us questions. You can always, if you want to offload a task to us, we can do that too. If you need a lawyer, we can hook you up there. But like I said, it is 2024. This is not like it was even 2 years ago. There's so much information out there. You just need to make sure that you go to the right source. Expat groups on Facebook are not the right source. They are not, period. That is a rant for another time, but they are not factual. Don't get your facts from Facebook. All right, so our next question comes from Debbie on the 5 Question Friday forum. Which mobile phone companies are best for island cell service? Excellent question. So most likely it's going to be Hrvatski Telekom, which can also be called Telecom. It's like the Croatian T-Mobile. And this is the reason. So Hrvatski Telekom is like the modern version of the state-run communications company. So under Yugoslavia, they had a state-run communications company. Hrvatski Telekom is the modern evolution of that. Actually, I think it was on Five Question Friday, oh gosh, many, many episodes ago, where we talked about kind of the history of Hrvatski Telecom, like from beginning to end. But that's why. So they have the most extensive infrastructure in Croatia. So very often, if you are someplace and you don't have a signal and you don't have Tecom, it's usually Tecom who does have a good signal there. So FYI. But that being said, it does not mean that it's across the board. Like, for example, I do not have Tecom. I had Tecom in my first few years in Croatia, but I found that their customer service was tremendously lacking. And every time I had to go into a Tecom store, I'd wait like an hour and a half with like 30 other people, and I didn't like that. And so I moved over to Ayedan. I've had Ayedan for a while now, and I'm so happy with them. Their customer service is great. They'll speak to me in English if I need it. They're always looking for ways to save me money, and I never have to wait more than 10 minutes. And the reason I bring them up is because last Friday, I filmed Five Question Friday from a beach on Island Susak, and I had 4G. And the quality was not bad, guys. I mean, and you can tell me what it is now, because I'm in the middle of the sea. I don't see anything out here. So you can tell me what the quality is like now. But let me see if, well, I don't want to mess with it. I'm afraid I'm going to do something to Five Question Friday. So I'm not going to look right now to see if I'm getting 4G or 5G. But so if you are living on an island, then I would say that's definitely something to take into consideration when you're choosing your mobile provider. If you're not living on an island, if you're living on grid in a city, then it should be less of an issue. We do have a guide on Croatia's mobile providers, on all of them. So if you would like that guide, send us a DM and we will get that over to you. I think we have a question up here from Luke. Hi, Luke. Our lawyers, what'd I do? Oh, there you go. Our lawyer is now saying we need 2 sets of original apostille translated lineage documents, one for her and one for me. The consulate in New York said we need one, but they didn't seem sure. Any advice? I would listen to the lawyer, but having 2 copies is not unusual. I had to give 2 copies. I've spoken to a number of clients recently who also had to have 2 copies. I think it's prominent. What is the word I'm searching for right now? Most likely, because MOP and the consulates just don't want to have to make 2 copies, you know? So yeah, that's not unusual. So yeah, I would follow what the lawyer says. And as far as the consulate not knowing, yeah, that happens sometimes. The consulates don't know everything. I mean, look, it's not a dig on the consulates. It really isn't. But something that I know I've said a lot, if you've watched Five Question Friday religiously for a while, you've probably heard me say this before. But it's important to understand that the consulates are under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. It's the Ministry of the Interior that is reviewing your application. So 2 different ministries. So yes, the consulates may be accepting your applications, but they don't make decisions on those applications. And they have discretion to change the requirements and to say stuff that's in conflict with the Ministry of the Interior. And that's not, I don't want to say they have discretion like they're allowed to do that. They just aren't checked. They're not checked. So I don't know what the process is for them to train these consulates on what they should and should not be doing. But I've been doing this long enough and have talked to enough people and have worked with enough lawyers and gotten stories out of enough consulates to see the pattern that they don't all have the right information. And that sometimes they state stuff that's not true, either because they can't be bothered, or they don't know, or they're just trying to make things more difficult. It's really hard to know what it is. So go with a lawyer. That's what I would say, Luke, okay? And if you need more assistance in that, if you want to get a lawyer involved, because sometimes the lawyers have to get involved with the consulates because they'll try and tell you something that's not in the law, it's not the procedures. We have decisions that say otherwise, and they won't listen, and so a lawyer has to get involved and be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? So if it feels too fishy and you want to talk to us, send us a message, and we can help point you in the right direction. Thank you for the question. We have something else down here. Hey, Anna, you're watching from Panama. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. What else we got here? Michael, I have T-Com and Zadar and on Dugi Otak, and it works great. That makes sense. That makes sense. Awesome. How do you find the service? I'm curious. Oh, there's Luke again. My wife has lineage, and I'm applying as the husband. Okay. All right. Yeah, all the rules would be the same. Your appointment's in August, so we will scramble to get a second set of originals and get them apostilled. Yeah. I mean, what you could do, one thing you could do is, but you're you're in the States, so I don't know if this is going to work. So what I did here in Croatia is I got true copies. So true copies are where you take your original documents and to a notary, and they make a true copy, and they kind of validate that it's a copy of an original. So that's what I did, rather than getting new documents. Whether or not they would allow you to do that with a U.S. notary, I am not so sure. I would love to get the answer to that question. So I will see if I can get that question answered. Let me make a note, since I'm using my computer today. Ask Andrea if you can use U.S. notaries for true copies of an application for the second copy. Luke, I will make you a deal. I will find out the answer to this. If you tune in next Friday to 5 Question Friday, I will answer this question. All right? Okay. Let me see. Let me scroll back down, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, I did not. All right, so next question, and this is our last one for today. This is from Elaine on the 5 Question Friday forum. My family applied for citizenship in New York. Oh my gosh, Luke, we were just talking about applying for citizenship from New York. Okay, my family applied for citizenship in New York over a year ago, and my son just received notice that he was approved, but I, his mother, am still waiting. How is that possible that he received approval before me? Can I call Zagreb to see where my papers are? If so, who do I call? Okay, so I'm going to guess through context clues that she's talking about an adult son. Because if a minor child is applying with a parent, they're applying on that same application. But adults, anyone 18 and over, must have their own application, okay? Now, every adult person's application is processed separately. Now, it doesn't matter if you're related or not. There are multiple caseworkers. So a mother could be processed by one caseworker, and an adult child could be processed by another caseworker. It's just the nature of the ministry. If you apply to the consulate, that is who you should contact first, always. If you want to take it a step further, there's an email address you can email. It's pitanja@mup.hr, so Pitanja, which means question or questions, at mup.hr. That's just a general mailbox for the Ministry of the Interior. I don't usually see that people have much success there for citizenship applications, but it is a place to start if you want to escalate beyond the consulate. Now, if you really want to go balls to the wall, throw everything at this situation to try and get an answer, then you need to hire a lawyer. And we have lots of clients that do that because they have been waiting a long time and they want to get an answer and the consulate's not being helpful. So they hire a lawyer and the lawyer contacts the ministry to see if they can get an answer. There's not always a guarantee that they will get an answer, but that is at your disposal. So if you would like to go that route, then we can hook you up with lawyers who are in contact with the ministry and specialize in citizenship. Just send us a DM and Cam will hook you up. Waiting more than a year for citizenship is not unusual. It's not unusual at all. Average is 1 to 2 years, but lately it's more like a year and a half to 2 years. Now, of course, there are those wild card situations. If you're out there and you're in one of those citizenship Facebook groups, you're like, Sarah, I saw a guy who got 4 months. It's that is an exception, not the rule. You don't know if they had some kind of visit, some kind of connection to be able to make that happen. I don't want you to have unrealistic expectations. Average is 1 to 2 years. If you're applying through the LA consulate, at least 2 years. So just keep that in mind. And just be patient. It takes time. There's so many people applying for citizenship, and there are not that many caseworkers who are going through these applications. Nationality is a big deal. I'm giving off priest vibes. I could not be far from that. Yeah. This mic is very obvious, but I had like a little like discreet one, and I used it one Friday, I don't know, maybe a month ago, and it just sounded like I was like in a box, and so I just, no, none of that. So I'm okay with it looking weird. I'm comfortable as long as you can hear me. Okay, guys. Oh, citizenship. If you need anything related to citizenship, we have tons and tons of guides. We have all of them. If you have any questions, if you don't know if you qualify, send us a DM. Oh, great, Steph. I'm so glad. All right, so that is it. Thank you so much for joining me here in the middle of the sea. Actually, I'd love to show you just out the window real quick. I mean, there's not a whole lot to see, but it is the Adriatic Sea, and the Adriatic Sea is awesome. So let me just quickly show you out this somewhat dirty window, and then I'll show you kind of this room that I'm in here in the salon. So let me pick you up real gently like. So yeah, there's like nothing out there. And then this is the room I'm in. I got so lucky that there's this salon here on the side of the ferry and there's nobody in here. I don't know how that happened. But I'm so glad because I was not sure. I was actually really excited because last time I was on Loshin doing my Croatian and language immersion course, I did 5-question Friday in Croatian with my Croatian teacher. And I was like, I'm going to get to do that. In fact, last Friday I even said, next Friday I'm going to do this. But I totally forgot that my ferry left at 4. Well, it was supposed to leave at 4. And that I was going to have to do it on the ferry. And, you know, when it's cases like this, sometimes 5 o'clock just happens at an odd time. And it's a little stressful because I just didn't know what the scenario was going to be. The ferries can be loud. There can be lots of people. And I don't want to disturb other people. But I also want to be able to have this time with you and not cancel. So I feel like all the stars aligned so that we could do this. And in fact, I posted a story like 20 minutes before saying we moved till 6, but then I got all settled and I had this great room and it was 4 minutes till. I was like, I can make this happen. So here we are. Okay, next Friday, I will be back in Split. 2 Fridays from now. No, I'll be in Split that Friday too. I got lots of travels happening in June, but we'll talk about that another time. The next 2 Fridays, I will be in Split, so I'll see if I can find some nice, cool place, because now it's going to be warm. So I will arrive back home. I get into Zadar at midnight tonight, and then I'm going to take my lovely Isabel, my car, and drive straight to Split, because I just want to be home in my bed. So I'll probably get home about 2 a.m., and then tomorrow morning, my usual Saturday cafe routine with a donuts, and then I'm going to go to the beach down Omish. I guess it's going to be 27 tomorrow in Split, so I'm going to go and just like fry. All right, guys, if you have any questions that you would like to see answered on a future episode of 5-Question Friday, shoot us a DM, comment when I post the replay, which will be up in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for being here. I love having this time with you. I really appreciate all your support. This is the 145th episode, if you can believe it. Oh my gosh, that means in 5 weeks it's going to be 150, which is just an arbitrary milestone that doesn't really mean anything, but it is huge. There's a lot of episodes. Okay, I'm officially going to go, and I'm going to eat my sandwich and chill out. So, happy Friday. Setan patak. Vidimo se. Ciao. Bye. Bye. Bye.